All right, what's up everyone? My name's Nick, tech consultant working here in New York City, and welcome to my channel where I talk about everything from building your career to personal finance to building your personal brand and everything in between. So with that, let's get into it today. All right, so given that I'm pretty new to YouTube and this channel is only a couple weeks old at this point, one of the things that I wanted to do was just do a kind of a fun little exercise on background on myself and where I've come from and how I've gotten to the point in my life where I am today. I was watching a video by Iz Harris. She's an awesome YouTuber that does a lot of great blogging on a bunch of different things, but she did a really cool video called 30 Things I Did Before 30 or something along those lines. I'll link it below, but really cool exercise that she did to talk about various things that she has done leading up to the time that she turned 30. I figured this could be a fun thing for me to do. I'm 27 right now, about to turn 28, so I wanted to adapt that a little bit and talk about the 27 things that I'm really glad that I've done over the course of my life leading up to this point. And I think a lot of the stuff that I wrote down and as I was brainstorming these things were things that are probably more recent, but there are definitely some things that I've done prior to maybe adult life where I'm really glad that I did whatever that thing was. So with that, I just wanted to dive into that list right now. So number one on the list, I think, is probably one of the best things I've ever done is asking my fiance, soon-to-be wife, Jen, to marry me. I think that this obviously starts with when I met her back in college. We were living on the same floor in our dorm in college, and we met, I think, week one of college. So I've known her for a very, very long time at this point, and we kind of hit it off from day one, and she's my rock. She's amazing. Cool. Number two, traveling the world. I really, really, really love travel, and really hating that I can't travel, outside of kind of locally, given the state of the world right now. But I've been to a bunch of different countries at this point in my life. I think right after college, one of the things that was kind of got me to have that travel bug was a month-long trip I did around Europe with my then girlfriend, now fiance, but we had an awesome time just traveling around a bunch of different countries. And ever since then, we've really tried to keep the spirit alive of traveling at least to a new place internationally every year. So, most recently, my most recent trip was Japan, had an amazing time there. And that was just an awesome trip, but, really excited to, in the future, once everything gets back to normal and we're allowed to travel more, get out there and explore more of the world. Cool. Number three, rock climbing. I discovered rock climbing about two and a half years ago at this point. Some friends of mine had, always been into it, or at least been into it in the last couple of years as well. And they got me to go to a gym with them here in the New York area, and I just fell in love with it right away. So much fun. I'm not the kind of person that enjoys going to the gym and lifting weights, but this was a really, really fun exercise where basically from the minute that I started getting on the wall and climbing, as scared as I was, it was so much fun. It was exhilarating to solve problems and focus and really pay attention to your body and where you're putting your feet and your arms and where you have to pull and balance. And it was just so much fun, and I've really fallen in love with it. COVID has also kind of limited the capacity to which I'm able to climb, but I really enjoy it, and it's probably one of my favorite activities. All right, number four, listening to podcasts. I didn't start listening to podcasts until I started my first job out of college. I was working as a consultant at the time, and all the managers that I worked with, they all just raved about various different podcasts and really started to dive into it from there. I'll list some of my favorites below, but off the top of my head, Freakonomics is awesome podcast just about economics in the world and various contexts. TED Radio Hour is TED Talk hosts about various things that they've talked about in various topics, and it's a really interesting one. More recently, I've been listening a lot to the Journal podcast through the Wall Street Journal. There's so many podcasts. I could talk for hours about all the different podcasts that I love, but I'll list a couple of my favorites below. So number 5 is the fact that I've tried a lot of different jobs leading up to where I am today. So, going back to my very first job in high school, I was barely old enough to be able to legally receive a paycheck, but I worked at a bagel shop in my hometown. And as grueling as that was, I learned so much just about like what it means to work. I mean, I was washing dishes, I was making bagels, I was getting burned while trying to take cookies or muffins or bagels out of the oven. But it was my first experience having to do service for other people, and really enjoyed it. Really, obviously didn't get paid a lot of money back at the time. I was just making minimum wage, but it was the first time that I ever made my own paycheck, and it was kind of cool. But ever since then, I've done things ranging from, working on a golf course to I worked on the sales floor at Best Buy towards the end of high school. That was really interesting. In college, I started working as an RA at the university that I went to. So I, lived with freshman students, and that was a lot of fun. Really learned a lot about, managing other people, mediation, a ton of different things there. I interned on Wall Street, which was a great experience, and my first experience living in New York City, and that's kind of how I, ultimately got drawn to New York City. And then really since graduation, I've done a number of different things ranging from, working for a really big tech consultancy to working in medical devices to now I'm working in the marketing space as a technical sales consultant. So there's a lot of, really interesting things that I've done leading up to this point from a job perspective. And I think the fact that I've tried so many things has really given me so much perspective and so many experiences that have really made me into the working professional that I am today. So that's number 5, but I'll probably do a separate video on just my career progression and the different things that I've done leading up today. Number 6, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I think moving to New York City was one of the best things I've ever done. I come from a fairly kind of suburban hometown. Coming from there, I didn't really know city life too much. Never really thought I would move to New York City, but New York City was always something that intrigued me. And when I went to school, a lot of friends and other people that I knew were either getting jobs in New York City or moving down there just for fun or had internships in New York City. And that kind of really drew me to at least want to check it out a little bit. And, from there, I had my first internship there between my junior and senior year. Absolutely loved it. Loved living in the city and knew that after graduation, I wanted to live in the city. So made the move and really haven't regretted it ever since. It's such an amazing place. There's so much opportunity for career progression and learning about different people and their culture and where they came from, and amazing food and amazing coffee, and just such a vibrant place to live. Number 7 for me, I think, was the fact that I went to college somewhere that was just far away enough from where I grew up, where I could have a completely new experience, be kind of far away from my family, but still, be able to get home when I needed to. And I loved where I went to school. I met some amazing people. There were amazing experiences. It was obviously challenging being away from home in that, first couple of semesters, but I had an amazing time where I went, and I just learned a completely new kind of perspective on life that I didn't have before. So I think that's probably number 7. Number 8 is learning what a good friendship is. I think, a lot of us, as we're, young, going into adolescence, becoming young teenagers, and then kind of going into that college kind of space where you're, meeting so many new people. I think a lot of us, when we're younger, just have so much emphasis and so much focus on, what do people think about me? How many friends do I have? People. And I think over the years, I've really learned to just be comfortable with who I am, be comfortable with the friends that I've met up until this point in my life, and kind of remove people from my life who either I felt are like toxic or just not people that I want to be hanging around with. And I think adulthood is really kind of where people start to learn that and really find who they are and who they want to spend their time with. So yeah, that's number 8 for me. Number 9, ran my first marathon, and I think just in general, starting to run. I ran my first marathon back in DC last year in the end of October, I believe, and it was an amazing experience. Training up for that was just grueling and such a hard mental challenge, but it was so rewarding and something that if you had asked me 5-6 years ago if I would ever run a marathon, I would say there's no way that I would have ever been able to run a marathon. But I think running is such a great activity just for the mental challenge. I'm a strong believer that anyone who wants to put their mind to it is able to run, 1 mile, 3 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, 13 miles for a half marathon or even a full marathon. I think it's 40% physical and the rest of it is, purely in your mind. So being able to, put your mind to something, sticking to it, and, just cutting through the pain and fighting through that, I think was just such an amazing experience. And I look forward to hopefully running another marathon at some point in my life. Number 10, I think kind of ties into number 9, but over the last couple of years, I've really taken a much more rigid approach or focused approach to my own health and fitness. So, before I, wasn't a couch potato, I was fairly active, but I just never really made the headspace or made the dedicated time to go to the gym or go on a run or, more recently go to the climbing gym. But I think I've put a lot more focus on, just being more active and ensuring that I stay active, because as I get older, obviously I'm still pretty young at this point, but as I get older, it's going to be more and more important to just kind of stay active and stay healthy. So I think that's one of the big things that I'm glad I've done. Number 11, I guess, again, kind of ties into the last couple, being able to appreciate, home cooking a bit more. I think I've started appreciating home cooking a lot more during COVID, but really since being on my own, I've become a much better cook than I was, back in college, let alone in high school. Eating healthy, making food that's tasty, indulging or overindulging sometimes, but just making good food, making it at home and making it with the people that you love, I think is a great thing. Number 12, I think, is a bit counterintuitive, but the fact that I've made some not as advisable financial decisions leading up to this point. I think we all learn from, various financial mistakes, whether it's, you spent too much on that apartment or you spent money on something that you really probably could have just made at home, like a coffee or, going out to eat or, paying for, when I moved to New York City, I paid for the convenience of wash and fold laundry, which in the first year that I lived in the city, which in hindsight was just ridiculous that I spent the amount that I did on having someone do my laundry for me. Now I do my laundry on my own, but yeah, there's a number of different things that I've done since becoming a adult that has bills to pay and is making a salary and maybe spent money in ways that I shouldn't have spent money. But I think we all learn from those mistakes, and I think in the end it all kind of makes us more financially sound individuals. Another thing, again, kind of tying back to the fitness side of things, but I found skiing. I had always grown up snowboarding. I think I started snowboarding around age 10 or 11 and really loved it. But, as I've gotten older, joints don't work as well as they used to. And I learned skiing, or Jen brought me to a mountain up near where we went to college. And I think that was our senior year. And I tried skiing for the first time and I loved it. You can go super fast. You can have a lot of fun. But it's, a little bit more, I guess, in my mind, safer than snowboarding. But I've really enjoyed learning to ski and will probably be skiing for the rest of my life. Number 14, learning to appreciate coffee beyond Starbucks. This is kind of a silly one for me, but if you kind of saw my last video, the unboxing of the espresso machine, I absolutely love coffee. I've always been kind of a coffee person. In high school, drank Starbucks whenever I, had money to spend on Starbucks. But as I went to college, there's a great coffee shop on campus where I would go and study and do homework or study for tests or whatever it was, and get a nice cappuccino or macchiato or whatever it was, and started really appreciating fancier coffee. And that's something that I've continued to do. A lot of my weekend adventures at times, I kind of laugh at this, but weekend adventures around New York City sometimes are around, hey, let's go try this new coffee shop in this new neighborhood that I haven't seen before. And I've found that it's a way for me to be able to not only try a new place to get some cool coffee, but also a place for, or kind of a mechanism or vehicle for me to explore somewhere new, or just go somewhere maybe I wouldn't have thought to go ahead of time. But yeah, coffee's awesome. Coffee has taken me to awesome nooks in the middle of Japan, to Copenhagen, when we were just kind of roaming around the city of Copenhagen and found this awesome coffee shop where we got to know the owner, and they pointed us to other places to go visit. I've had so many great experiences that surround coffee, and it's something that I will probably never lose a taste for. Number 15, learning to code, albeit poorly. Definitely not a software developer or someone that I would consider a highly proficient person that is able to code, but coding and just in general picking up technical concepts is something that has really opened up a lot of doors for me in my career, especially someone who works in the New York City tech industry. Coding is, I think, one of those fundamental skills that I hope in the future all elementary school kids and all middle school kids have to take some sort of coding class that just teaches them how to think in a different way. I got into my first tech job in New York City after having taken a coding class online, and that kind of taught me a couple of concepts that I needed to be able to be successful in that role. And today in my current role, I still code, and it's been able to open up opportunities for side projects or things that help the company or anything in between. And the way that I got into tech was actually I picked up a minor in IT at my university to kind of complement my engineering degree, where my particular engineering degree, I studied biomedical engineering, didn't really have a super high focus on coding. So I picked that up, and it was an awesome experience. So definitely recommend that everybody learns to code at some point in their life. Number 16, volunteering. I think volunteering has been a really awesome way for me to get to know my community, understand areas where people may be struggling or people may need additional assistance. And I've been able to have a couple of really awesome experiences volunteering here in New York City, especially. So I think everyone should, if they have the opportunity, find some way to contribute to your community and just help out others who may need help in some other way. But yeah, volunteering has been a really great thing for me. Number 17, making the more conscious decision to read more. As I was younger, I read a lot of novels and read a lot when I was in elementary school leading up into middle school, but then for whatever reason, I just stopped reading. Then I kind of thought of it as a chore. It wasn't something I found enjoyable, and just kind of fell off from reading. Kind of fast forward to after I graduated from college, having, all through college and engineering school, all of the reading that you're doing is like super technical, heavy text, and I just didn't want to read for pleasure. But as I entered the professional world, I picked it up again. I read some great books, read some great like personal help books or personal finance or business or just general here's a great thing to do. And I've kind of picked up that tradition and have been reading a lot more since becoming a working professional. So yeah, reading is an awesome thing and something that I think everyone can learn something from. Number 18, rediscovered my love for baseball. Growing up, I enjoyed baseball a lot. I think it was something that me and my dad used to do quite a bit. We would always watch growing up, it was the Orioles, but then the Washington Nationals became a team that came back to DC after being the Expos up in Canada after decades. And you probably saw my Washington Nationals hat in my intro video, but I think baseball is something that just kind of gives me this kind of connection to my dad. Something whenever I turn on the Washington Nationals, I think of my dad and all the good times that we had in our backyard growing up, just playing catch. So yeah, baseball is awesome. Number 19, learning how to grill the perfect steak. This is something that I struggled with for years, was never really able to perfect it. But recently in quarantine, again, going back to the cooking thing and learning to appreciate home cooking, finally made the plunge to buy a instant thermometer, and that has honestly changed my grilling game. It has been able to teach me, what the right temperature is for a steak and being able to sear it and all that stuff. But yeah, definitely pick up an instant thermometer. It will up your steak game immensely. Number 20, meditating. This is something that I only probably picked up in the last year or so through a perk that I have through my job. But meditation, I think, is something that we can all benefit from in some way. I think just kind of getting out of the headspace of, work is crazy busy, or personal life, this is going on, or I'm stressed about this or that. Meditation can really help you focus internally on things that might be bothering you and being able to recognize that, hey, this is bothering me. Like, this is something that's causing me stress, and being able to recognize that. So yeah, I think meditation is awesome. It's something that I still struggle to practice with, but I've been trying to do a lot more over the last year, and will continue to work towards it. Number 21, this one might be surprising for people who know me, but deciding not to drop out of engineering school. My first year of engineering school, I struggled a ton. Coming from high school, I was, a pretty high-performing high school student, was generally at the top of the class, and going into college, I think for a lot of people, is a big culture shock and a big shock from just an academic perspective. And I struggled a lot. I, got not great grades for the first time in my life, had a GPA that really discouraged me, and was really, really close to dropping out and just not continuing with the engineering school. But I'm very, very glad that I didn't do that, because the remaining 3 years after that tough freshman year were just an amazing learning experience. And I really credit one of my professors that I went to my freshman year, second semester, just kind of talked to them about some of the struggles that I was having and just the hesitation that I had in myself to actually be able to do this thing. And they were so supportive and gave me a lot of support and confidence that I would be able to do this. And, I ended up being able to do pretty well in school and graduated well, and here I am today. But yeah, really glad that I didn't drop out of engineering school. Number 22 kind of ties back to one of the other items earlier on that I spoke about, but starting working at a young age. I basically started working as soon as I could at 16. I started with that bagel shop job and kind of proceeded through a number of other different jobs through high school. But those early jobs, I think, that I had really instilled a solid work ethic in me and really taught me a lot. So yeah, I think that was a really great experience for me. Number 23, learning to golf. I absolutely adore golf. I started golfing, I think, when I was 12 or 13, took a lot of lessons when I was in high school and middle school, and just absolutely love it. I know it's boring for a lot of people, and it doesn't look like it's the most fun thing to do, but I just have a blast golfing. It's a super challenging sport, but there's nothing better than waking up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. Dew is still on the grass, and you kind of have that fresh summer morning air, or the spring or fall, or whenever you're golfing. But it's just so much fun. I love golf and will never stop golfing, I don't think. All right, number 24, started a blog. I started this blog back in 2018, and I had always wanted to find a way to, put myself out there on the internet in some way. I think that was kind of the start of me wanting to do something like put together a YouTube channel or start something that was just a little bit of a side hustle that was a fun project for me to just be able to put my thoughts out somewhere and kind of hope that others would be interested in it for whatever reason. And that was, just a really fun thing for me to do. I'm glad I did it. I definitely haven't been contributing to it as much as I would have liked to, but we'll definitely continue to, keep it up and running. I put it together on WordPress over the course of a couple weekends, and I'm really proud with how it ultimately turned out. But yeah, starting a blog was definitely a fun little project that kind of kickstarted this whole side project type thing. 25, eating at a restaurant alone. I think learning to be comfortable eating at a restaurant alone, I think, is something that we should all, feel comfortable to do. And honestly, for me, it wasn't something that I was really comfortable with until probably a couple of years ago. After I had, done a lot of traveling for work, and you've got to eat, right? And if the company's paying for food, you might as well go, sit at the bar, sit at a table, and just get a meal. But yeah, I mean, I think sitting and eating by yourself, reading a book, typing up a blog post, doing work, whatever it might be, I think is something that we should all feel comfortable with. You don't always have to be around someone at every given point of the day, and I don't think we should feel awkward just sitting by ourselves and enjoying a great meal. I think some of the best meals I've had have been just sitting in a restaurant by myself, eating an awesome meal, having a good cocktail, with a nice book to read, and just enjoying my own company, I guess. But yeah, I think that's a great thing that I've learned to be comfortable with. Number 26, learning to network and be comfortable going to random events, wherever you are. I think this is something that, again, is probably more recent for me, after becoming a professional, working in New York City, being asked to, oh hey, like we've got this networking thing or a cocktail event or a happy hour or whatever it is. I think is something that a lot of us, when we first start off our careers, is something that we don't really know how to approach properly. So some of us, me included, would sometimes avoid those events. You immediately say, oh, I don't know anyone there, it'll be awkward, I don't want to go by myself, I'll just stay home instead. But I think a lot of the greatest opportunities that you can get are at these type of events where you just meet people you've never met before. People who have different backgrounds from you, can make you introductions. I definitely encourage any of you who are watching who may feel apprehensive about going to different events, really just go for it. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what your next opportunity is going to be. And yeah, it's definitely something I encourage everyone to try at least a couple times. And then to wrap this all up, number 27, I think just starting to feel comfortable being my true self. Again, I think this kind of ties back to the friend thing, where being able to find friendships that are really powerful and beneficial to everyone involved in whatever that friendship is. But I think the same goes for just learning to be comfortable with yourself. As soon as you realize the fact that your happiness is whatever you make it, I think that is, for me at least, was the switch that really just kind of made me appreciate who I am, where I've come from, my interests, what I want to spend my time doing, and really enabled me to really just focus on those things. And I think ever since then, I've really enjoyed life in a way that I never really had that same perspective of in the past, because I was either trying to impress people or try to live up to something that I wasn't, or try something that just wasn't something I was passionate about. And I think it's incredibly important for all of us just to really appreciate who we are, things that we want to do, and not try to live up to the expectations of someone else. A lot of us will feel a lot more empowered to just go out and be the best that we can be and pursue the things that we want to do. I think just learning to appreciate yourself, what you want in life, who you want to spend life with, what you want to spend your life doing. I think just as soon as all of us are able to realize those things, I think we're all in a much better off spot, and we'll just enjoy the craziness that is life that much better. But cool, yeah. So this was a fun little exercise for me to run through. I had spent a couple weekends ago just kind of typing down some of these ideas and tweaking the list. And yeah, I mean, I think this is a fun exercise just for me to reflect on how far I've come from where I was decades ago. Being able to, just reflect on the things that I'm proud of and things that I am really glad that I've done, and things that I think will carry on with me moving into, my future and what I hope to become in the future. But I hope you all enjoyed this as well and find some inspiration from this. Would love to see your list of 27, 28, 29, whatever that number is. Would love to see your list of things that you're really proud of moving forward. But yeah, this was fun, and I'll sign off for now, but we'll talk soon.